Peas Choti Pack, Rupeal 37ක වාසියක්. දැන් රුපියල් 145යි.
හරිම සුළුයි.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Monday, the 23rd of January 2023. Assurances. Japan to resume funding for construction of Bandaranaike International Airport Terminal 2 after Sri Lanka completes IMF negotiations. Unnecessary fear. Government assures salaries of state sector employees will not face major delays. Subsiding consumer prices. The NCPI-based inflation for December reduces 59.2% from 65% in November.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Suzanne Shinelli. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening to all our viewers, and you're joining us on First at Night. Now, leading tonight is the Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Japan International Cooperation Agency assured funding to resume construction of Terminal 2 of the Bandaranaike International Airport to Minister of Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva. Currently, Terminal 2 construction of the BIA is halted as Japan awaits the conclusion of Sri Lanka's talks with the IMF to resume funding for construction.
Japanese Ambassador Mizukoshi Hideaki called on the Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva at the ministry premises. During the meeting, the Ports and Aviation Minister appreciated Japanese assistance in supporting Sri Lanka's debt restructuring program. The Japanese envoy and the Japan International Cooperation Agency's director for Sri Lanka, Akimitsu Okubo, assured that they will resume the currently halted construction of the Terminal 2 of the Bandaranaike International Airport once Sri Lanka's negotiations with the IMF to secure a bailout package is complete. Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva emphasized that the expectation of the government is to see it completed as a successful Japanese project, adding that no assistance of another party would be sought for the purpose.
The government today said the salaries of executive-level state sector employees can be delayed by a day. State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitia said monthly salaries of non-executive public sector employees will, however, be paid on 25th of January. He also assured that there will not be massive delays in paying employee salaries as the Ministry of Finance has prioritized solving the matter.
This is a difficult year for us, mainly this month. January is the month before which a 9% economic contraction was experienced. We are aware that there will be negative growth this year as well. The estimated income this month is 145 billion rupees. The customs said 7 billion rupees out of that sum will be reduced. The excise department predicted a 3 billion rupee reduction. Our total expenditure is 625 billion rupees, including debt repayment. The difference is 480 billion rupees. In order to control inflation, we are not printing money for our daily expenditure. We can't borrow loans. When we impose a payee tax on those who earn a monthly income of over 100,000 rupees, they protest. We know that they too are passing a difficult period. We understand that. However, we have given our priority to payment of salaries. We have set aside 87 billion rupees out of the 93 billion salary expenditure for the payment of non-executive employees. We have to pay only 7 billion rupees to executive-level employees. We will soon settle the salaries of the executive-level employees. However, there can be a delay of a single day.
The Department of Census and Statistics reported today that year-on-year inflation as measured by the NCPI for December 2022 is 59.2%, while inflation calculated under the same metric for November 2022 stood at 65%. Inflation in the transport sector led the charge in the non-food category, which contributed 29.62% to the year-on-year figure, while food inflation recorded a contribution of 29.52%.
The Department of Census and Statistics today released data on the National Consumer Price Index and the inflation rate for the month of December 2022. The index, which is released monthly with a lag of 21 days, reported on NCPI 256.3 for all items in December 2022. Accordingly, the NCPI recorded no change in index points compared to November 2022, which the index was 256.3 as well. The Department of Census and Statistics also said that the month-on-month change was contributed by a decrease of expenditure in food items by 0.2% and an increase of expenditure in non-food items by 0.21%, respectively. On the year-on-year inflation front, the Department of Census and Statistics reported the overall rate of inflation as measured by NCPI as 59.2% in December 2022, while inflation calculated for November 2022 was 65.0%. With respect to December 2021, the reported inflation for the month of December 2022 was higher mainly due to the higher price levels in both food and non-food groups. However, on a monthly basis, the year-on-year inflation of the food group decreased to 59.3% in December 2022 from 69.8% in November 2022, while the year-on-year inflation of the non-food group also decreased to 59% in December 2022 from 60.4% in November 2022. On the year-on-year basis, the contribution of food commodities to inflation was 29.52% in December 2022 compared to the month of December 2021. Contribution of non-food items was 29.62%. The non-food items contribution was driven by inflation pertaining the transport sector, which recorded 8.25%. Housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels reported an inflation value of 4.80%, while furnishing, household equipment and routine household maintenance recorded 2.88%. The health sector inflation reported 2.1% as the clothing and footwear sector recorded 2.0%. Meanwhile, alcoholic beverages, tobacco and narcotics recorded an inflation value of 1.44%.
Now, professionals from a diverse group of industries and sectors protested the new tax policy of the government. A petition was also launched island-wide by the Government Medical Officers Association, urging the government to solve a shortage of medicine, which the association states will be taken up to the World Health Organization as well.
Recently, the Trade Union of Professionals decided to launch a black protest week against the government's new tax policy. The Government Medical Officers Association initiated the Black Protest Week today at the Colombo National Hospital. A petition urging the government to solve the shortage of medicine was also launched island-wide today.
දියවැඩියාවට ගන්න ඉන්සියුලින් එක පවා ජාතික රෝහල ඉතාම හිඟ තත්ත්වයට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. දියවැඩියාවට ගන්න මෙට්ෆෝන් පෙත්ත පවා අද වෙනකොට ජාතික රෝහල ඉතාම අර්බුදකාරී තත්ත්වයට ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. දැඩි හිඟයක් මේ වෙනකොට සමහර ප්‍රතිජීවක ඖෂධවල මතුවලා තියෙනවා. නිර්වින්දන ඖෂධවල හිඟය ලංකා පුරාම ගමන් කරමින් තියෙනවා. වේදනානාශක ඉතාම දැඩි හිඟයක් මේ වෙනකොට නිර්මාණය වෙමින් තියෙනවා. අපි මේ කතා කරන්නේ මුලතිව් රෝහලවත් කිලිනොච්චි රෝහලවත් නෙමෙයි ජාතික රෝහලේ තත්ත්වය. අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ සතිය තුල ලෝක සෞඛ්‍ය සංවිධානයට මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් පැමිණිල්ලක් බාර දෙන්න.
Black flags were raised at the National Hospital premises while doctors too were clad in black armbands. The employees of the banking sector joined the protests as they reported to work in black attire. The Bank of Ceylon Trade Union today handed over a memo to the Presidential Secretariat elaborating on the injustice caused by the new arbitrary tax policy of the government. Meanwhile, junior staff of the National Hospital in Colombo engaged in a strike from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m, listing several demands of the government. The demands include the development of hospital facilities, a solution to the shortage of medicine, and a transport allowance. Meanwhile, the Ports Joint Trade Union Alliance engaged in a protest in front of the Khan Clock Tower in Colombo, demanding the government to repeal the new taxes. The protest caused traffic congestion in the area. A group of lawyers engaged in protests outside the Colombo Magistrates Court in Halsrough, citing several issues including the imposition of new taxes. University lecturers also launched a protest urging the government to reverse its unjust tax policy.
Independent parliamentarian Professor G.L. Pierce criticizes the statement made to the Supreme Court by Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana through an affidavit saying that it is challenging to find finances for the local government election. Addressing a media briefing today, Professor Pierce said that the finances for the election had already been allocated by Parliament last year via the budget. Professor Pierce added that it is the responsibility of the Finance Ministry to place the funds at the disposal of the Election Commission.
Now, the latest argument is that the election cannot be held because it is very challenging to find the financial resources to conduct this election. I have never heard a more bizarre argument than that. Regular elections must be held. That is the litmus test of democracy. Parliament is under a duty to allocate resources that are necessary for the conduct of elections. That has already been done. In December last year, Parliament has allocated the necessary financial resources. It is then the compulsory obligation of the Finance Ministry and its Secretary to place those resources at the disposal of the Elections Commission. That is the duty, the responsibility of the Secretary to the Finance Ministry. Now, I would like to put a very candid question to the Finance Secretary. Now, he says now that it is very challenging to find the resources that are essential to conduct this local government election. We all know that the presidential election has to be held before November next year. That's not a long time away. There's nobody in this country who believes that the financial problems, all those difficulties will evaporate before November next year. Then, will Mr. Siriwardana comes November next year, put forward the same argument? Then is the presidential election also not going to be conducted? If Mr. Siriwardana's argument has any validity or substance with regard to the local government election, what is the difference vis-a-vis the presidential election? If it is valid now, it will be valid next year. So what would be the result of that? A government which is manifestly lacking in legitimacy, a government which does not have the vestige of a mandate from the people of this country, will go on indefinitely. No provincial council elections, no local government elections, no money. Presidential election also no money. Therefore, a president foisted on the people of the country will continue indefinitely on the basis of the argument of the Finance Secretary that it is exceedingly challenging to find the resources that are necessary for the conduct of the presidential election. Who in the world will regard this argument as credible? We will do everything in our power, in Parliament, in the country at large, before the courts of the country, and before the international community, to prevent the collapse of democracy in this land.
Stay with us for more news to know about COPA's new program to train employees with the aim of providing quality workers to the foreign job market.
It's hard to keep up with the new when you're listening to the same old Slim Bread Week, a week for professionals.
Welcome back to First at 9. Now, the subcommittee of the Committee on Public Accounts on the preparation of a joint plan to train workers with the aim of providing quality workers to the foreign job market has commenced rural-level training campaigns. Its chairperson, Dr. Sudarshani Fernandepole, said parliamentary support will be provided through committee intervention to make the program a success.
The subcommittee to review the training program prepared by the Interministerial Committee regarding the referral of quality and skilled migrant workers for foreign jobs of the Committee on Public Accounts met recently under the patronage of Subcommittee Chairperson Dr. Sudarshani Fernandepole. The meeting was also participated by officials representing the Ministries of Public Administration, Education, Labour and Foreign Employment, Health and Foreign Affairs. Attention was given to the progress of recommendation previously made by the subcommittee to prepare a joint plan with the collaboration of all ministries in order to train quality workers for the purpose of the foreign job market. Officials pointed out that training and campaigns have already begun at rural level. Discussions also focused on the need for the national vocational qualification in Sri Lanka to be implemented in parallel with other countries. Further attention was paid to strict monitoring of licenses of foreign employment agencies registered under the Foreign Employment Bureau. The committee also discussed the discipline of skilled workers who wish to go abroad. Dr. Fernanda Pillay mentioned that support of Parliament will be provided through the intervention of this committee regarding the training of workers going abroad. Therefore, she also pointed out the need to speed up the necessary work in this regard.
Litrogas Lanka Limited says the prices of domestic LP gas cylinders could increase once again in February. According to the state gas supplier, upward price revision is due to the increase in the global prices of LP gas. On the 5th of January, Litrogas reduced the price of its LP gas products, including a 201 rupee reduction in its 12.5 kilogram cylinder to 4,409 rupees, based a pricing formula. Colombo stocks jumped over a 3-month high today due to positive sentiment following assurances from India and China on Sri Lanka's debt restructuring. The all-share price index closed at 3.13%, higher at 8,990.94. The S&P SL20 index closed higher at 3.48% at 2,818.94. Market turnover was 2 billion rupees, higher than this monthly daily average of 1.9 billion rupees. However, it is also comparatively lower than 2022 daily average turnover of 2.9 billion rupees. Diversified financial sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, while the second highest was food, beverage and tobacco sector. Net foreign inflow of the Colombo stock market for the day was 29 million rupees. Now let's have a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Oil prices drifted lower in early trade today, thinned by a Lunar New Year holiday in East Asia, but held on to most of last week's gains on the prospect of an economic recovery in top oil importer China this year. These developments come as the G7 nations prepare to cap Russian oil on the 5th of February in an attempt to dry up the Russian treasury.
Brent crude was down 0.1% to $87.52 a barrel at 7:31 a.m. GMT, while West Texas Intermediate U.S. crude fell 0.1% to $81.56 a barrel. Last week, Brent rose 2.8%, while the U.S. benchmark logged a 1.8% gain. Analysts said the optimism regarding China's reopening will likely drive oil prices higher. Experts said the market wants to preserve long positions in case China growth resumes. The ANC commodity analysts observed a solid pickup in travel in China after COVID-19 curbs were eased, pointing to a 22% jump in road traffic congestion so far this month versus a year earlier in the country's 15 key cities. The International Energy Agency on Friday said energy markets could tighten this year if the Chinese economy rebounds the way financial institutions expect. The jump in China's traffic ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday bodes well for fuel demand after the 2-week vacation. The European Union and Group of 7 coalition will cap prices of Russian refined products starting on the 5th of February, in addition to their price cap on Russian crude in place since December and an EU embargo on imports of Russian crude by sea. The G7 has agreed to delay a review of the level of the price cap on Russian oil to March, a month later than originally planned, to give time to assess the impact of the oil products price cap.
It's been a quiet start to the week in Asia, with much of the region on holiday. US stocks futures are near flat, but Euro stocks futures added 0.5% to extend their recent bullish run. The rise on the European futures were mainly due to the drop in gas prices and hawkish comments by central bank representatives.
Presumably, much of the rise of the Euro stocks can be attributed to the 60% drop in European gas prices since December and relief that worst fears of an energy crunch have not come about, even if it has turned a bit colder in recent days. Analysts assume the same changes will deliver an improvement in the EU flash PMIs for January this week, likely outperforming the US surveys. This has combined with some hawkish words from an ECB Governing Council member to lift the euro to a fresh 9-month high at $1.09 and challenge April's spike at nearly the same amount. The latest Reuters poll of analysts tips hikes of 50 basis points in both February and March and a peak of 3.25%, while the Fed is now almost certain to go by 25 basis points next week. Minutes of the Bank of Japan's December meeting, where they shocked markets by widening the yield curve band, were striking in how dovish board members still were. Most of the discussion was about the importance of maintaining stimulus, a stance Governor Kuroda repeated more forcibly after last week's meeting. Elsewhere in Asia, the Hang Seng Index recorded a gain of 1.33%, while India's Nifty 50 recorded a 0.6% climb.
The International Cricket Council released the men's T20 international team of the year 2022 and the women's T20 international team of year 2022, which both include one Sri Lankan player each. The ICC opened the 2022 awards announcement week by revealing the T20 international team of the year in both women's and men's categories. Sri Lankan all-rounder Wanidhu Hasaranga has been included in the ICC men's T20 international team for the year, while Sri Lankan left-arm spinner Inoka Ranavira is part of the women's T20 international team of the year. The ICC recognized Wanidhu's outstanding performance in the Asia Cup and the T20 World Cup, where he picked up the 15 wickets in 8 games. The ICC also appreciated Inoka's performance during 2022, highlighting that she picked up 27 wickets in 19 T20 internationals, while averaging 13.85 and conceding runs at an economic rate of 5.75. And that's all the news we got for you tonight on tonight's edition on First at 9. We will be back again tomorrow at the same time. Coming up next is Anuradha Wickramasinghe on World News Tonight. Stay safe and have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.